You are a writer, educator, activist, and a mother. So you possess a wisdom that's advantageous, truly. So I welcome you to this interview.
Thank you.
You began writing at the age of 16.
Right.
Can you tell me what event or events spurred this on choosing 16? What happened?
I was talking about this in a class earlier. Reading the autobiography of Malcolm X really was life altering for me. It was, I've written this down, that life is like PM, pre-Malcolm, dark, right, in the dark, and then AM, after Malcolm, right, like I woke up. So reading the autobiography really gave me a different sense of who I was. It gave me a different sense of self, right, like things that I had been ashamed of, like it's thick hair, right, or dark skin, things that I was just like, oh, I should look different. Malcolm, he just threw all that out the window.
Yes,
right? Reading that book. And so I remember when I read it, I felt like words are extraordinarily powerful and they're really healing. And if this book could do this for me, maybe I could write things that would be useful to someone else.
Yes, share it.
In the future. Yes, and share it. And so that was the initial thing that really spurred me. And then studying the poets, like the Black Arts Movement poets who became, the Black Arts Movement poets because of Malcolm X, right? Reading their work and seeing how they were engaged, like in the world around them and how they were involved in community. I was just like, this is what I need to do with myself. This is how I need to live my life.
And what a perfect age to have done it, right?
That's true. No, it's true. That's true. But it's crazy, right? Because you in your head, you cannot be moved.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
You cannot be moved.
Sure. Absolutely. Is this the time when you, as you were thinking about that and Malcolm X, the pre and the after, just in that nice little honeymoon stage, is this when you discovered your gift as a writer? You know that you're very well loved in many communities, and so I mean, when was that time when you discovered that you had a gift? That's an interesting question. Or do you feel that you have a gift?
You see, that's because all right. Wow, that's a great question. It's actually difficult. I feel like I've been given this calling,
yes,
right? Like I have this calling, and I feel like it's a blessing.
Yes.
Wow, creativity is a gift. Creativity is a gift. I think all of us are born with creativity, right? Maybe the gift is that I've been given space to nurture that gift of creativity.
Right.
Maybe that's what I've had a supportive community. My parents, they would go to my readings and be really happy when work got published, and that is a gift.
So that's where you received your successful feeling of, I guess, of accomplishment and
there. I suppose there, but it's. Maybe it's because we live in the United States. I never really feel like I've done enough.
Okay.
And,
right.
And I know this is complex. It's probably not.
No, that's okay.
But I always feel like, all right, now what else do I need to contribute? What else do I need to? And I think that could be a problem, actually.
Yes, you feel like you're still on this journey and will continue to be doing so?
Yes, I feel like I'm still on a journey, but you do need to stop and sometimes go,
right.
We did that.
Yes.
We managed to get that done.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Right? Like there's not a lot of time to celebrate.
Right.
Because there's always the next one. The next thing. And it's not the next thrill, but sometimes it's the next challenge. Sometimes it's the next issue, right?
Yes.
You go from Trayvon Martin to Mike Brown to Eric Garner right? Yeah, I mean, right, the names. So you go from one thing to the next thing, and you're like, well, how can I be useful?
Okay.
And,
so you feel like it really wasn't a time, it was just kind of an ongoing process for you, and it still is?
Yeah, it's always an ongoing process, trying to figure out how you can most be useful.
Sure.
And then at the same time, again, like, sometimes the most useful thing you can do is sit down and shut up.
Yep, right, and listen. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, and listen, I hear you.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, on that note, why is writing so important to you?
I think without it, I'm not really sane.
Okay.
No, it's where I process things. It's where I work through things.
Yeah.
So even if it's like, I'm big on journal writing. I might not write a poem for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, but I better be getting some thoughts out in a journal. I think writing is helpful for everybody.
Yes.
You know, if you don't write, then I hope you dance or you play music or you do something. You've got to do something creative. You paint something, you doodle.
Yes.
You've got to do something to get things out. And
Yes.
so that's writing for me is my way of going through and processing and working on things, right?
Yes.
Working on all.
Do you find that there's a lot of self-discovery when you go back and reread these journals?
Yes, and I also lately I've been finding there's unfortunately a lot of repeated patterns. Right? And so like negative patterns. And so that's something that's useful when you go back and you say, well, if you knew that a year ago, then how come a year later you were still doing that?
I see.
Right? And that's it gives me a real mirror to look at, like, well, you were complaining about the same thing
Yes,
for the
of course. Sure.
What's your problem?
So now maybe looking at it and saying, how can I change this, right? This
Yes.
time. Maybe won't repeat it the third time.
Exactly.
Third time's a charm, right?
No, it's true.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The one thing that I was quite taken with, I was watching a video of you, and you had mentioned getting those words out. It was very important to get those words out, and I was wondering, you had mentioned who had said this, and I was wondering if you could just share a little bit about it. If you cannot find your pen, write it with your blood.
That's Ruth Foreman. Wow, yeah. She has a
Yeah.
poem where she says that, and I think it's called If You Lose Your Pen. This poem is absolutely, it's essential.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
it's essential. I wish I had the poem in front of me because I'll butcher it, so I can't recite it. But basically, it's like, well, if you lose your pen, you know, and you can't find it, but then instead of finding the pen, you go looking for the cat, but you can't find the cat because she's out making love. It's not your pen you're looking for; it's your voice, right? And I mean, it's a very
yes.
powerful poem.
Yes.
And so in the end, she says you get that thing down.
And you felt that was something that really resonated with you.
Oh yeah, her that is from her first book, We Are the Young Magicians. She also has a poem in there I love to talk about. Poetry Should Ride the Bus.
Poetry should ride
She's
the
an
bus,
amazing
yes.
writer. Mhm.
Okay.
And so yeah, those poems really. The whole
Yeah, they really
book,
connect with you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Can you explain vitality in your writing? How important is that for your audience?
That's an interesting word.
Like vitality. What is vital about your storytelling, or what does that mean to you?
Well, when I think of vitality, I like this question. I think about life. I hear vita, and I just think, okay, life, right? Like I kind of think that sharing stories is, in a way, it's affirming.
Yes.
Like it shows our connection, because
Correct.
usually I read someone's story and I go, oh my gosh. James Baldwin says this, like, you think you're the only one who's gone through something, and then you open a book, right? He puts it so beautifully, right? You open a book. And so the storytelling is partially, I think it's what keeps us alive. That's what has kept cultures alive. We share our culture through stories.
Right.
We share ourselves through stories. We share our ideas and our morals through stories.
Right.
And so I guess, I mean, Aaron had said, like, your poems, there's a story sometimes in them.
Correct.
And it just, it's life-giving,
Yes.
in a sense,
yes.
right?
And the written word itself takes that oral tradition and oral stories, and would you say that sounds true, rings true for you?
I think, yeah, the oral, you write the stories down and they take on different lives. Like, I'm into work having different lives now. Like, I don't want my work to have me physically present always to live. So if I put it on a page, right, and it goes out in the world, that's one form. If I record it with some music and it goes out, that's another form. If I put it on a video, it goes out, and it let it live and let me do something else.
Yes.
Right, work on whatever the next thing is.
Yes.
I think that's one thing, and you said vitality. I think also these connections can keep us young,
Yes.
right? And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
young in here. I mean,
Right. Right.
Not physical.
Keeping things
use.
alive. Yes.
Yes, just
Okay.
in here and
Yes.
mentally
Yes.
awake.
I just thought of that word without knowing you, and I thought I'd bring that forth. And you're just multi-talented in everything that I had seen and read about you. All of the different modes in which you express yourself in photography and in art and music and writing, and what are the other modes? Have I missed something that in a way that you express your?
Yeah, I mean, there are films, and then there's when you cook,
Yes.
when you do hair, right?
Yes.
When you make love,
Yes.
when you do all these things,
Sure.
right? When you choose your clothing, we all have it. It's what I'm saying. We
Right.
all have it. In terms of in terms of other arts, no, I there are other things that I like to do, but I haven't done them in public yet. So maybe I'll start to do them, and then you'll
Okay.
say, "Oh,
That would be great.
Yeah, she didn't tell me, but
Now I know.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, there are some things that I love to do, but I do them in my house. They're artistic or creative things, but I don't share them. And I'm thinking, I should share those more.
And wouldn't it be wonderful if it was in writing?
Well, they can't be, and that's what I found out. I have other forms that I want to more physical forms, and then some involve voice, and so there are some different things that and then in nature, I said cooking, but like in making drinks like teas,
Yes.
right? Like figuring, okay, we were talking about heartbreak earlier, and we're going to take some rose petals, and we're going to take some lavender, and then we'll get this honey, and we'll put that together, and then we'll sit down and have a conversation, and we're going to make this lotion, we're going to make all
Beautiful,
this,
yes.
all this stuff.
That's
all this
beautiful.
stuff.
That's beautiful, and that actually ties into my next question. As an herbalist and as a constant, I think, a lifelong student of that type of realm, really organic. You work with nature as a mind and body healer, I would say. You share empowerment with your medicines or your infusions. How might this energy and all that you put into it translate through to your writing?
It's so interesting. I think that doing those things just feeds me and keeps me clearer.
Yes.
And the clearer I am, the better off I am when I get to the page, you talk about vitality. If I'm drinking my nettles, that gives me some energy that I need in order to do my work. So, and also just being around nature is healing.
Yes.
And grounding. And I tend to not be a very grounded person. So being around those things just, okay.
So that would be something that you would recommend to everybody, wouldn't you?
I would.
Yes.
No, I would. I think it makes you better to do whatever it is you want to do.
Got it. Excellent. Wonderful. Wonderful. One thing that I noticed also is you're a great advocate for women breaking their silence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Always. Yes.
That's big.
In your experience, how far do you think women have gotten to this day? Do you and in what direction do you think they need to lead their voice? It's a two-pronged question.
Yeah, it's that's a difficult question for me to answer. It's very difficult because there are silences in so many different spaces, right? There are silences in so many. I think I feel like it's another ongoing thing, because maybe one woman feels that she can express herself, but there are 6 others who are sitting down and saying that's my story too, but they've never shared it, and that's more reality than is not.
Right.
So I can't quite say where we are, right? I don't know what my sisters keep stuffed in them.
Yes.
I don't know.
And even sharing stories with them, did you have any kind of feedback, that sort of thing? Would be interesting to know, because you having a voice, sometimes you are the voice for other women, and so hopefully that will help them to have a voice, find their voice themselves.
Yeah, sometimes they say that. Sometimes young women, they might come and say, well, now I've started writing, and or thank you for saying that, because that is what happened to me.
Right.
And so
liberating in a way.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's disturbing also, right? It's just it's a painful.
Yes, of
it's
course.
Painful situation. And how far do we have to go? My goodness. I mean, there's so much to think about. I was thinking the other day about beauty.
Yes.
right? I read this woman. She wrote this amazing piece in this journal called Hysteria, and she said that every day she receives messages talking about how she's ugly. Every single day, right? I need to remember her name, but she said every day someone sends her a message telling her this, right? And what she said is, that's fine. She ends saying, I'm not here to decorate the world, I'm here to change it.
Wonderful.
She goes through this whole process in this essay. And I have to say, this essay really had me just thinking, like, well, I mean, even before we sat down, I was saying, well, I should put on some lipstick or something, right? Like, is it necessary to, so what boxes do we get? And then, of course, lipstick is fun. Lipstick is lovely. I'm not saying we shouldn't put on lipstick.
Of course. But for whom?
Right, yes. And if we feel that we're not presentable.
Yes.
For whatever, and if that might sound silly, but so a certain woman who looks a certain way can have a voice, but a woman who looks in that way should sit down and shut up because she doesn't look appropriate.
Yes, of course.
According to who?
Yeah, according to whom? Society. And what is this essay that you were speaking of?
It's in a wonderful publication called Hysteria.
Hysteria?
Hysteria. It's a wonderful journal put out by a lot of young women some who graduated from school recently. A young woman named Bjork, is my contact in Hysteria, and she just published actually some work that my husband and I did on body acceptance and body image. But this essay I'm telling you about is not in the current issue, it's in the issue right before. And I mean, the essay is it's staggering.
So that would be something that maybe our students, especially the female students, would like to perhaps look at. And, and you would say it's a good idea for them to read it, yes? To get an idea?
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's great. Now, moving along, here I'm just going to take you right out of what we were talking about, move you right back into the literature, the writing part of it. Who are your influences?
Oh my gosh, that's like too long to list. But
do you have any that you can just think of right now?
Of course. And Tazaki Shange is a huge influence, right? And most people know her for writing for colored girls, right? Who consider Suicide When the Rainbow Was Enough. But Tazaki Shange has written novels, and she has Nappy Edges is an amazing collection of her poetry, and Daughter's Geography. Like I pretty much have everything she's written, except one of her children's books. So she's just brilliant, right? She can write in different languages, or she did write in different languages. She has some physical problems, so she doesn't do so much of that anymore. But she theater, essays, multilingual, very interested in the African diaspora, and she's written a cookbook. Can you imagine? And where she writes about the history of foods in Brazil and here in the South, and where you can find these links, and just
fantastic.
She's a genius.
Yes.
Right. And
tying in all these things into that one thing.
And music and painting, and I mean, she ties it all in. But she's a big influence because she's about breaking silences, and she caught a lot of flack and criticism for her work early on in particular. And Audre Lorde is a huge influence. Audre Lorde is just another person who your silence will not protect you. Like, Audre Lorde is someone who I hold
very close to.
Very close. And James Baldwin. Right, like these people. And then Langston Hughes.
Yes, of course. Langston Hughes, fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, Langston Hughes and Sonia Sanchez and Willie Perdomo. Like, those are some of my... Right, like I James Baldwin and Tazaki Shange and Audre Lorde are people whose work I go back to. And whenever I teach, I always say, if somebody didn't do James Baldwin and Audre Lorde in my class, they didn't take my class.
I see.
Right, they didn't. So that's not right. That doesn't happen. Right? Even if I teach GED courses, which I've done, we are reading James Baldwin.
It's fantastic. No, that's good. That's good. It's good reading. It's very good reading.
It is. No,
it's important.
It's absolutely. Again,
and students need to understand that, because I find that students who want to write find it very hard to find that voice by themselves, or find it hard to go through a writing process, or even how to start the writing process.
Right.
So maybe my next question should be, what is your writing process? How
Just write. That's I just tell people, just write. You get a journal and you just write, because people think, I mean, I know people who are, they're very methodical about what they do when they get up and how they do their work. That's not me, right? I have 2 children. I travel, have sometimes had 2 jobs at the same time that I've been writing, and right. I mean, so this is my real life, is sometimes a swirl of activity. So I just get my journal and write. I might jot down some pieces of something. It might be a mess. It may never see the light of day. It might be a mess, and I go back to it and say, oh, there's something I could work with here. Or it might all just come out, right? Yeah. But the thing is to just get the thing and write. And like we said earlier, don't care about audience, don't care about who's gonna criticize it. You just write.
I think that takes a lot of pressure off of the students when you mentioned that, because of imagining imagining the judgment, right? I think that students are very afraid of writing and how they feel they're going to be judged. So you say, just don't think about the audience, just write.
Right. And it's very difficult for students, because students are being graded on everything.
Yeah.
So that makes complete sense. Students are aware if I just write, what's going to happen next? I'm going to get a D. Right? So they're being conditioned. Like, I'm almost the anti-condition.
and then, so how do you find at the end of the day, how do you pull it all together once you have the
editing? And that's what I think is important for students to understand, is that it's a process. It doesn't have to start out, and for any of us to understand,
sure.
We're all students, right?
Sure, yeah.
But it doesn't start out usually perfect, right? I mean, on occasion, you might, right after you've been writing for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, you get it on the first try.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right? But for most of us, we've got to work through.
Yes.
Right? And see, students, they got 5 classes, they got X amount of papers, they put this out, then it's going to be graded, then it's no good, then they can't do another draft. There's a certain sort of pressure here that's on results, and it's not on process. And that's one of the problems that I find in classrooms. We are not emphasizing process, so students don't feel free enough to have a process. And then that seeps into their creative writing and maybe into their lives. Because in life, aren't you supposed to be getting it right?
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
You're not supposed to have a process.
No, it's supposed to be done right. Yeah, I hear you.
Right.
I hear you, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's we need to put more emphasis on allowing people to have process and be people. Yeah. That's what I think.
It's kind of like the not the destination, but the navigation.
Yes.
Do you agree with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I tell my students, all right, when I was teaching, all right, so let's just write whatever, I mean, you have to get them comfortable as well. Like, we write a lot of free writes, none of which are graded, right? You can share, you cannot share. It's up to you, right? And those are just something we do every day.
Yes.
And then we get into our discussion. But then when it's time to write papers, all of a sudden, and I say to them, hey, come on, I'm the same person you've been with all semester. So understand, it's a process. Right? I don't expect you to hand me some junk, but what I do expect you to do is understand this is a first draft.
Yes.
We're going to work on that, and then we'll go to the next draft.
Takes a lot of pressure off of the student, doesn't it?
And puts a lot more on you.
Yes, you're absolutely.
No, because that's right. No, and that's true. That's true. But you need to be able to have a process, and that's what Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. Do you have any closing advice for anybody about writing, or about being able to just extend your voice, or just do it, or?
Wow.
What is your message? I guess maybe just a closing message.
I guess just work with your truths, Try to live in the truths that you discover about yourself, and give yourself room to change and grow, because you'll change and grow.
It's beautiful.
I guess that's
beautiful. No, it's beautiful. Absolutely.
Yes, that's what I'd say. And love yourselves, because you're beautiful. I don't even see you, and I know you're beautiful. Don't let them tell you anything different.
That's wonderful. I thank you so much. You're an amazing inspiration.
Thank you.
You're so full of vibrancy and life, and we'd like to thank you so much for just taking the time to be there with us.
Thank you so much.